Nothing helps me feel the power of my knees more than kneeling knee stretches on the reformer. It's a loaded exercise going into loaded flexion and loaded extension with your knee going through the hinge fully. Now, how much you can get into deep flexion in the position of kneeling knee stretches really depends on your actual ability to use the whole body to keep the weight up out of your knees. That's how you're then able to progress through the different shapes of your kneeling knee stretches to get to the kneeling knee stretches off. Now, the most important thing really when mounting the equipment is to really get a good grounding in the feet, okay? Now, if you've got arthritic big toe and that hallux valgus and your toes are more pointing downward, fine. Push into the shoulder block with that as much as you can still, from the knee to your shin all the way into the foot. Ideally, yes, you want that deep flexion in that big toe. Right? And ideally heels reaching back. Some of us have very short Achilles, so do what you can there. Now, in Joseph Pilates' shape of kneeling knee stretches in his little pictures of himself in his little spanky shorts, he's really far back, sits bones towards heels. And the elephant curve of his spine is reaching him into the foot bar. So you see, that is some serious knee flexion, right? So to get out of this, I need to press into the feet, lift up, and feel the thighs, quads, knees, shins, feet push back, hamstrings engage, and then be able to keep the flexion from those low abs pulling under to come back in. I mean, he's really far back there, y'all. Okay? Now, if your knee health, and to tell you the truth, there are some days I cannot get back here. As I come up higher and lift up, I'm still pushing down and back because this is going to move the spring. That which is closest to the spring moves the spring. So in this curve now, I'm a little higher, which is a little more accessible for people. But this means now as I press out, in the round, we're only going so far as to not actually send that lumbar spine into extension. Right? We want to keep that lumbar flexion as best we can. Push the thighs out from underneath of us, holding up that front body, holding that flexion in the abdominals to keep the spine rounded back in. The lower you come in your sitting position, the more work you need in your quads to push out. So the stretch is really about feeling the spring stretch through your whole body. There is some stretch in my feet, I will tell you that. It's a lot of nice plantar stretch in the foot. But as I press out and I come in, the feet standing allows me to feel the work around the front of the knee and quads and the back of the knee, hamstrings, all the way up into my hips. Therefore, when I change the shape, as my sacrum lifts up through space to come into more of an arch swan back, right? Now as I press down, there's different intel having to come up into my sacrum and meet the work of my upper back and shoulders. I'm still doing the same work through the legs. If the legs can maintain that, and if they can keep standing and meeting the spring as it changes, then changing my spine back into a curve is no big deal. If we add pressing down, we're going to pick up those knees. But here's the secret. It's about pulling the weight up. My feet and my hands push down. It's true. It's the only thing that's going to get me up there. But I have to find a coming together and an up at the same time. Pressing down, hovering, press out, pull in. You can adjust your foot here. That was too much flexion on my big toe. And then I'm going to crouch it back down into as low as I can. Full extension, pull in. Full extension, in. And it's a resisting, and it's a curving, and it's a how low in a crouch, how parallel to the mat can you get those shins that brings the strengthening work up through the entire thigh all the way up into your hip, which you're going to need for the next exercise I have planned, front lunge or going up front on the chair, which is really about brute strength, but we need that to do things like go up and down the stairs. Now, there are a lot of variations for your kneeling knee stretch position, one of which is very popular is to use a box and have your feet against the box as you press in and out. What that's doing is bringing you and the equipment together more. It's forcing the connection of you and the equipment together more, which is a great way for fresh movers to really feel how much work they have to do inside of themselves to get it done. So play with those variations. But remember, it really should strengthen your thighs so that now when we go to an even more advanced exercise, we're ready.